Good morning, everyone. I have not been in this good of a mood in a long time. I started my new job last week at Daru Market, and I'm absolutely loving this experience. I don't know if it's the atmosphere they've created over the past decade, or just some really talented hiring managers, but everyone has been so welcoming and extremely helpful. I couldn't have asked for a better crew. Plus, my parents are visiting soon. My hernia surgery is on the horizon. Things are good. And I had the pleasure of petting a dog for 20 minutes this morning. And as for you, demented lot, this is the murder of Theresa Rose Rodger. My name is Eli, and this is Murder in the Morning. My sources for today come from Uncovered.com and a Medium article by Charlie O'Brien, but his only source for that article was Uncovered.com. When I say little has been published about this case, I mean a total of 5 paragraphs worth of information. That's it. Unfortunately, this may be my shortest episode yet, but it just goes to show how many murders, no matter how horrific, have been forgotten about. And I'm just going to go ahead and issue a trigger warning for the whole thing. It might not be as gory as some, but this one hurts. Alrighty. Wednesday, October 20th, 1971, in New York City, more specifically, South Brooklyn. 17-year-old Theresa Rose Rodger left her house around 10 a.m. with $4 in her pocket. According to her mother, she'd planned to go blouse shopping and then search for a waitressing job near the Bay Ridge area, just a few miles south of her home. Little did she realize this would be the last time she would see her daughter alive. According to the Medium article, quote, Theresa's mother, Rosalie Rodger, became worried for her daughter when she didn't come home. Theresa lived with her mother and her brother at 235 Pacific Street, and it was unlike her to not come home. It's unclear when her mother became concerned, and it's also unclear as to when the police were notified, but soon day turned into night and still no Theresa. The next morning, however, was a completely different day. 24 hours after she left home, Theresa's lifeless body was found by an elevator repairman on a rooftop. This building was 198 Bond Street, part of the Gowanus housing project, only half a mile from her home, just an 11-minute walk away. According to the sources, quote, when the Brooklyn South police detectives arrived on the scene, they investigated and determined that there had been a large struggle on the roof. Theresa's hands had been tied with a strip removed from her own brown blouse, and her ankles were tied with their shoelaces, her knees had been tied up with her own corduroys, and someone had gagged Theresa with her bra. Initially, the police believed that someone had cut Theresa's throat with a knife. However, this turned out to not be the case. The medical examiner studied the young girl's body and determined that she had been strangled with a wire, and that wire had cut her jugular vein. According to her death certificate, Theresa had died at 1:45 p.m., end quote. She had also been stabbed multiple times in her stomach and chest, and there were endless defensive wounds. She had fought back hard. Fortunately, after all of that, an examination found no signs of sexual assault. Nonetheless, inherently violent. The police theorized that Theresa had been attacked by a group of girls or women on the rooftop with the intent to rob her. And that's it. That's what the police told her family, and boom, end of story. They had nothing more. They just said it was probably some girls that attacked her and killed her, and then they walked away. Which doesn't make me happy. I'm sure it doesn't make you happy, and I wouldn't let it go. 5 paragraphs worth of information? We need more. First of all, I do not believe a group of girls trying to rob someone would end up slicing their body apart. She died from her neck wound, and yet this onslaught continued. They kept stabbing her repeatedly after she was dead. To me, this screams one, maybe two violent perpetrators, and it seems personal due to the sheer violence. On top of that, you're saying a group of teen girls kept a secret together for over half of a century? No way. One of them would break or snitch. And you can just rob someone like on street level. You don't have to take them to the rooftop and violently murder them for $4. It doesn't make sense. And second, just because she hadn't been raped doesn't mean the attacker didn't try. She died at 1:45 p.m. in broad daylight, okay? A rooftop may have been the most secluded place at the time, and before he could assault her, maybe this man was scared off by one of the many people passing below on the road. She could have been dragged to the rooftop to get away, and that's where he killed her. All I'm saying is, there are way too many ifs and other avenues that were never discussed or explored in the 1970s. The police gave one theory of these teenage girls and walked away. Like I said, I wasn't happy. I needed another theory, and none were out there, so I had to find one myself. Maybe it isn't perfect, but at least I attempted, and I have a lot fewer resources than the Popo. Okay, theory number Eli. Y'all remember Richard Francis Cottingham, aka the Torso Killer, aka the Times Square Ripper, aka Dick Ham? That last one was me. He killed and raped a confirmed 18 people between 1967 and 1980 in New York and New Jersey. However, he claims to have killed over 100 people. This man was known to, quote, bind, gag, torture, and stab them before killing them by strangulation or asphyxiation, end quote. Almost exactly how Theresa was found. And Mr. Richard Cottingham, he liked teenagers. Most of his victims were. Sure, like I said, maybe it is a long shot, but with so little information about this case, there's that much more to uncover. We clearly have not ticked every box. And then the further I dug, the Torso Killer wasn't the only active or only known serial killer to be in New York during that time. Rodney Alcala, known for killing young women, moved to New York and attended NYU in 1971, only 7 miles away. That's 2 serial killers active during that time. And then you have Joseph Baldi, the Queens Creeper, who was convicted of stabbing young girls and women between 1970 and 1972 in the Jamaica neighborhood of Queens, New York, only 10 miles to the east of her home. Mr. Joseph Baldi here loved to excessively stab his victims. That's 3 active killers, just from my few minutes of research. I just think that someone more experienced than I should take a deep dive into this case. Like I said, there's so much more to learn, so many more avenues that were not explored. As of today, unfortunately, I have little to report. However, more recently, Theresa's niece started a blog called, quote, Justice for the Unforgettable, and she would post updates as she could, or as she got updates. Long story short, she reported that the initial evidence box for this case was lost. Imagine that. When, where, how, nobody knows. And then in November of last year, 2023, a new detective was actually assigned her case, and his top priority became finding that evidence. She posted again in August of this year, 2024, sadly saying, quote, Hey everyone, I know it's been a long time, but I've been waiting to hear back if any of the evidence has been recovered. Unfortunately, they still haven't found the box. They are currently making one more last-ditch effort, but it's honestly a shot in the dark, end quote. As with many cases, it's clear to see that the police seriously mishandled this case from the very beginning. They just didn't investigate. I couldn't find a single newspaper clipping, police record anywhere that says they actually questioned anybody. But we never know. Maybe that detective was just the right guy for this job. Maybe he'll find that evidence box. Maybe it's not over yet. And that, my friends, is the poorly covered, terrible murder of Theresa Rose Rodger. Again, I wish I had more information for you. I know this is just a tiny little snippet. I just don't. But I seriously think this case holds potential. Truly. Thank you all for listening in today. If you'd like some extra, because I know that was not enough, I invite you to stick around after the music. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Hello. If you haven't already, I know this might be sort of random, please go watch Lover, Stalker, Killer on Netflix. Even if you've heard the story years ago, it'll still blow your mind. I completely forgot about it, and everyone should hear that cluster F of a story. Highly recommend. In the meantime, a little positive news, titled Quick Thinking Teen Stops Suspected Sex Offender by David Baker and Akeem Powell of KOLD.com. Quote, police in Arizona say a 14-year-old's quick thinking stopped an alleged child predator's plans. Glendale police said the girl was walking home from school when 37-year-old Isaiah Navarro allegedly approached her in a red car and tried to talk to her. But she knew better than to talk to strangers or get in their cars. Navarro then asked the girl for her phone number, so she put her mother's phone number into his phone. And then safely, she got away. Investigators say Navarro then called the number thinking it would be the girl, but the mother picked up. So the mom later called police, and detectives continued this conversation with Navarro, pretending to be the girl, which got more and more graphic while he was describing and asking for specific sex acts, no matter the victim's age. Navarro repeatedly asked to meet up, calling over 30 times, and so detectives picked a time and a place. When Navarro showed up, he was arrested and booked into jail on charges of luring a minor for sexual exploitation and attempting to commit sexual conduct with a minor. His bond was set to $250,000. Police say any other victims are encouraged to call the department at 623-930-3000. End quote. Hell fucking yes. Way to go, little one. And yeah, I mean, she can't be the only one. If he's just out in broad daylight trying to pick up little girls, it definitely wasn't his first time. Welp. That's it. I wish I had more for you folks today, but yeah, those sad cases that don't have any information out there. We could do better. But thank you all again so much for listening in today. Have a wonderful Tuesday. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you next week. Okie dokie. Bye-bye. Love you.